You can be judged by your skin, your score past, your poverty, and still be chosen by God while man is busy writing you off. Heaven already wrote you in. They see your label. God sees your name. They judge your story. God sealed your title. Let me tell you something. This world will size you up before they even know your name. In America, they judge you not by your heart, not by your potential, but by your circumstance. They look at your zip code and assume your destiny. They hear your accent and decide how far you can go. They see your skin and think they already know your story. They don't ask what you carry inside. They don't stop long enough to recognize the fire God placed in you. No, they label you based on what's outside, the clothes you wear, the job you work, the school you didn't finish, or the one mistake you made 10 years ago, and they think that label is final. But let me remind you, people label what they don't understand. They name you based on what they see, but God names you based on what He knows. The world says you're a single mom, a dropout, a felon, a nobody, but God says you are fearfully and wonderfully made. The world says you're broken, but God says you're His masterpiece. The world judges your starting point, but God already titled your finish. While people are too busy counting your losses, God has already declared your victory. See, in this society, we've gotten used to wearing labels like they're stitched onto our skin. Unqualified, too young, too old, too late. And we start to believe them. We start to walk like them. We shrink ourselves down to fit into boxes God never built for us. But God never called you by your failure. He called you by your future. He didn't consult your haters before He wrote your story. He didn't look at your bank before He called you blessed. He didn't scroll through your past before He named you redeemed. You gotta stop letting the judgment of man silence the voice of God in your life. Stop acting like their opinion carries eternal weight. They didn't die for you. They didn't raise you. They don't sustain you. So why are you living to please people who can't save your soul? Let me tell you something else. Some of the greatest people God ever used were misjudged by the world, overlooked, misunderstood. They didn't look the part. They didn't come from the right side of town. But when God places His hand on your life, no judgment can stop it. No label can limit it. No lie can lock it up. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You don't need their validation. You just need to believe in the one who already called you. That calling didn't from a courtroom. It didn't come from a classroom. It didn't come from the culture. It came from the throne room. You are not who they say you are. You are who God says you are. They may see brokenness, but God sees brilliance. They may see a mess, but God sees His message. They may see a mistake, but God sees a miracle in the making. Don't you dare lower yourself to the judgment of man. When you were raised up by the grace of God, let them talk, let them judge, let them whisper. Because while they're stuck on where you've been, God is preparing where you're going. And trust me, where you're going doesn't need their permission. Where you're going already has His signature, His stamp, His title. Not failure, forgotten, not worthy, but chosen, set apart. And if God titled you, no judgment on earth can untitle you. You know what's crazy? People will hold your past against you like they were perfect in theirs. They'll see you through the lens of your worst moment and try to freeze you there. Like your biggest mistake is the only thing that defines you. Like the chapter they walked in on is the whole book. But I came to tell somebody, your past may be part of your story, but it is not your title. What happened may shape you, but doesn't name you. They may judge you based on where you've been, but God is calling you based on where you're going. See, a man is obsessed with your history, but God is focused on your destiny. People want to remind you of every wrong turn, every failure, every door you shouldn't have walked through. They'll call you a liar, a cheater, a dropout, an addict. And they'll say it like that's all you'll ever be. But the thing about God is, He already knew all of that and still chose you, still anointed you, still placed something inside of you that no mistake could cancel. You think your failure surprised God. You think your sin shocked Him. No. He saw the whole thing before it ever happened. And still, He titled you mine. Still, He called you by your future, not your flaws. He doesn't need perfect people. He just needs people who'll say, yes. People who'll stop letting shame speak louder than their calling. People who understand that when God forgives you, you don't have to stay stuck in what He already set you free from. But people love to drag you back. They'll say, Didn't you used to be? And you have to look him in the eye and say, yeah, I used to be, but I'm not that anymore. See, God has a way of transforming used to be stories and look at me now, testimonies. He'll take the one who used to be addicted and raise up a healer. He'll take the one who used to be broken and raise up a builder. He'll take the one who used to be silent and put a mic in their hand. Because when man judges your past, God is already setting up your future. That's the thing. Man disqualifies you based on where you've been, but God qualifies you based on who he is. The blood still works. Grace still reaches. Your mercy still shows up. You don't earn your way out of your past. You surrender. You don't climb out of it by human strength. You rise out of it by divine purpose. And don't be surprised when the people who knew the old you can't handle the new you. They were comfortable with the version of you that was broken, silent, insecure. But when you start to walk in healing, when you start to walk in authority, when you start to walk like you believe God titled you, they don't know what to do with that. And that's okay. You're not living for their understanding. You're living for God's fulfillment. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them replay your past like a broken record. Because while they're stuck in ruin, God has you on fast forward. While they're quoting your history, God is building your legacy. While they're looking at the dirt you came from, God is showing off the roots you've grown. And sometimes the judgment doesn't even come from others. Sometimes it comes from the mirror, from your own mind. You keep replaying what you did, where you failed, who hurt, what you lost. But I came to speak to a voice in your head that says you're not worthy. That voice is a liar, because the moment you gave it to God, he washed it clean. And if God doesn't hold it over your head, why are you? You are not the sum of your regrets. You are not your record. You are not the moment you fell. You are who God says you are. And that title didn't start after you got it all together. That title was spoken before the foundation of the world. He called you his. Then he formed you. He saw your mess. Then he gave you a message. He looked at your flaws and still said, I can use that. You can't walk in God's calling while wearing man's labels. You've got to decide which name you're going to answer to. The one they gave you, or the one he gave you. Because this world will slap a label on you so fast you'll forget who you are. They'll call you average, unworthy, incapable. They'll define you by your mistakes, by your lowest moment, by your weakest season. But God has already titled you, and his word doesn't change with public opinion. Some of you are still wearing the words somebody else spoke over you years ago. A parent who told you'd never amount to anything. A teacher who said you weren't smart enough. A friend who turned into an enemy and cut you with their mouth. And you've been carrying that weight silently, believing you're less because they said so. But their words don't define you. His word does. And his word says you are more than a conqueror. His word says you are the head and not the tail. His word says you are a royal priesthood, a chosen generation, a vessel of power and purpose. The problem is you've been walking like the verdict is still out. Like God hasn't already spoken. You're still tiptoeing around your destiny and waiting for confirmation from people who don't even believe themselves. But God didn't tell you to walk in hesitation. He titled you to walk in boldness, in authority, in power. When he said you're chosen, he didn't whisper it. He declared it. When he said you're forgiven, he stamped it in blood. That means you don't have to shriek to make them comfortable. You don't have to second guess your calling to avoid their criticism. You don't have to downplay your growth to keep people from feeling left behind. You've got to rise up and walk like you know who you are. Like you are. Stop wearing guilt like it's a uniform. Stop bowing to the judgment of people who didn't create you, can't save you, and don't hold your future. You've been spending too much energy trying to explain yourself to people who can't even comprehend the level God is taking you to.
And while you're stuck trying to win their approval, you're delaying your assignment. Let me tell you something. Your destiny is too expensive to be bargained down by their opinions. You can't afford to carry old labels into a new season. What God is about to in your life requires a clean identity, a focused mind, and a fearless walk. You can't step into divine purpose if you're still wondering whether you deserve it. It's not about deserving. It's about you being called. You've been called. You've been marked. You've been titled by heaven. And I know the voices are loud. I know the looks they give you. I know how heavy it feels when you're doing everything you can to grow. And all they want to do is remind you of who you used to be. But God says, I know the plans I have for you, not them. Not your critics, not your past, not your fear. I know the plans I have for you. That means if he knows it, you don't need their permission to live it. You've got to stop waiting for people to cheer for what God already confirmed. If he called you a leader, start leading. If he called you free, stop living like a prisoner. If he called you healed, walk like healing is already yours. Stop checking the crowd before you move. Stop dimming your light to fit in dark places. You weren't built to blend in. You were made to stand out. And hear me, it doesn't matter what they think you deserve. They don't see the prayers you've prayed. They don't know the nights you cried. They weren't there when you almost gave up. But God was. He saw it all. And he titled you chosen. Still, he trusted you with purpose. Still, he placed something inside of you that this world cannot ignore. So don't you dare go back to being who you had to be just to survive. You're not surviving anymore. You're stepping into destiny. And when you walk in your God-given title, the judgment of man loses its power. Walk like you know you're already titled.